one of the topics that I saved for the end of the show it has to do with the policing that took place, or the lack of policing that took place, as domestic terrorists stormed the Capitol, breached the Capitol building several times. That led to a shooting. A woman was shot and killed amid the chaos. And so what was going on? I mean, if you look at video footage of the absolute chaos, you'll notice that it didn't seem like cops were doing much to control the situation. They were ill prepared. They were outnumbered by these domestic terrorists. And so how could that be when there have been threats of violence regarding this very day for weeks now? It's pretty strange. But I also think it's important to look at some of the video footage we've seen on social media of cops being incredibly friendly to these domestic terrorists. Let's start off with the first video, which features some selfies taking place. ACAF. Great, so John, literally taking selfies with some of these people, breaking all the rules. I mean, if a black person was accused of trespassing, that's all the right wing would cite as justification for a cop shooting and killing them immediately, even if that person didn't pose an imminent threat. In this case, we're talking about armed people breaking into the Capitol building, and you have cops taking selfies with them. Yeah. I mean, the white supremacy within our law enforcement is just so clear. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we point out hypocrisy all the time, and what we look for is consistency, and this is at least consistency. I mean, like the cops always love the right-wing protesters. They always do. They love them so much that they're willing to overlook things, like storming the building they're defending, or routinely ambushing and murdering cops, or plotting to overthrow the government, which would involve killing tons of them. They're willing to overlook those things because they have that connection, No, seriously, like I tweeted earlier, like they could assassinate and kill a dozen cops a day for the next 10 years, and the cops would never be as mad at the right as they are at the left for asking for like a tiny bit of less funding to them until they get their act together. Like they're always gonna be on the side. They're literally like they were assaulting the cops. They were bashing through their thing. Like I don't get it. I get that you politically agree with them and you like them, but they want to brutalize you and possibly kill you.
So I want to also address something, because I'm seeing some people make the argument that, well, they were outnumbered, so what were the cops gonna do? No, I totally recognize that they were outnumbered. That's not what I'm specifically talking about in this story. I'm talking about cops taking photos, selfies with these domestic terrorists. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about video footage showing them literally opening the barricades to make way for them, to allow them to come in. That video exists. John mentioned it before we went live, and I watched it. It's out of control. They encourage this in some cases. The cops love this in some. I don't want to make a generalization, but the cops that enabled this certainly love these Trump supporters. They don't care about protecting the Capitol building, and they should be fired. They should deal with the consequences.
So to play devil's advocate, I have seen some tape of cops really trying in difficult situations. Single cop, like there was something, a cop or a security guard. I honestly don't know. It could be whoever. It could be Secret Service, it could be FBI. I have no idea. But it was one cop facing down a whole group and really in a running armed retreat, trying to stop them as they move through the building. So I have seen stuff like that, and there is a case to be made that in some cases, there you go, that's actually one of them. So there's a case to be made that in some cases, hypothetically, they could have escalated the use of force, but these are insane terrorists who are armed to the gills that haven't yet started other than once shooting people. So maybe if you don't do it, then less people die. And that only makes sense if you ignore the fact that there could have been 10 cops for every single one that was there. They had all the warning, for whatever reason they didn't have that. And that they clearly don't make those sorts of calculations when dealing with non-white people. So if you ignore those things, I sort of understand not wanting to escalate the use of violence, maybe.
No, definitely,
but we understand
John.
The context.
And also, we understand the context. They knew, everyone in the country knew that there was a possibility of today happening, right? Why were they ill prepared for this? Like, that's the question. Why were they ill prepared? I think that's problem number one. And for the Capitol Police who were there on the scene, who were actually trying to control the crowd. And I don't want them to escalate the situation. You're right, John. We're dealing with people who are armed, just indiscriminately firing at people or escalating the situation, as they did with Black Lives Matter. Would be a terrible idea. I'm not advocating for that. But A, they were ill prepared, even though we had reason to believe that today would happen. They also, in some cases, took selfies with these people, opened the barricades for these people. Those cops need to be investigated, fired, and investigated immediately. And why are they so ill prepared? Especially when not too long ago, just this past summer, we saw how much preparation there was in Washington, D.C. for BLM protesters. Let's take a look at some of those photos. Because if you look at those pictures, night and day. Lack of policing in the Capitol today in response to these right-wing extremists and terrorists. But when you look at these images of law enforcement in Washington, D.C. during the summer, this is June 2nd, 2020. Oh wait, Americans who are being brutalized by cops want to say something about it, want to change the system? Oh no, we got to be prepared for that. No, they came ready for that. They had no problem snatching people up off the streets and putting them in unmarked cars. They had no problem raining terror on both demonstrators and journalists in the summer. But for today, something that we were warned about for a month and a half by Trump himself, by people like Louis Gohmert. Oh, they just, how could they see it coming? How could they see it coming? Oh, what a weird situation where they're not prepared. They just couldn't predict it.
Yeah, I don't know what the explanation is. I'm assuming it is not, obviously, and you're not implying it, that it's on the individual cops. Someone chose to set up this situation. There was a choice in how much force to deploy. And you can't get to the end of all of these experiences that we saw and that you just cited in DC and think that it's natural for them to err on the side of far fewer people. So someone made those decisions. Maybe we'll find out, maybe we won't. Maybe it's internal to just the cops, and the cops honestly don't take it seriously because it's the right and they generally are in favor of those people. Or maybe there was pressure put on them.
Yeah, how are they ill prepared for today? And it's because it needs to be investigated. But honestly, in order for this stuff to be investigated and for the right actions to take place, you need Democrats to fight. The language about looking forward and not backward, it did not apply in 2008. It definitely does not apply right now. Because this threatens the future of the country. It's not just about what's happening with this particular election. If there are no consequences, it emboldens the worst people in this country. It emboldens domestic terrorists in this country. The FBI has put out so many reports indicating that the biggest threat to national security right now is right-wing terrorism, domestic terrorism. And we're seeing it right now. How many examples have we already experienced? This just happens to be one of the more jarring examples because it's directly tied to the election results. But hey, let's just keep ignoring what the real threat is. Let's pretend like the biggest threat is Venezuela and socialism.
Or, Bernie Bros, to bring it back to the digital brown shirts comments of earlier this year. There are crazy people. I don't think that they're, generally spending their time on the Green New Deal and $15 an hour minimum wage.
Are you sipping tea right there? That looked like you were intentionally sipping tea. It was kind of funny. I know you weren't, but all right. Well, look, we're gonna talk a little bit about what Twitter has done when we go to the post game. But no, I do have one more point I want to make. I made it earlier, but I want to reiterate again. Anyone who argues that today was an example of why we need to fund law enforcement more, don't listen to them, they're liars. Because let's put up those pictures again, guys, of what the scene looked like in the summer as Black Lives Matter protesters were demanding justice. We have an abundance of law enforcement, an abundance. We have an abundance of surveillance tactics. We don't need more of that. What happened today was in my opinion, I mean, this is, I'm obviously not 100% sure. So this is what I believe. They intentionally didn't prepare for today. Okay, so yes, it's speculation, but considering how much preparation went into responding to Black Lives Matter protesters in the summer, I find it very hard to believe, with all of the threats that we've gotten from Trump and his goons, that they just didn't expect this at all.
Yeah, and that they didn't adapt. Like, it's one thing maybe at the very beginning that they didn't have nearly enough people. It was hours going by. Yeah. It's DC, they're everywhere. The authorities are everywhere. They could have brought people in, they didn't.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.